I'll be covering more regarding like the key dates, because as we mentioned earlier in the previous section regarding Mercury retrograde, Mercury when transit Mercury is just starting freshly into its retrograde phase, it will sextile transit Jupiter, which will ingress into Aries. And transit Jupiter actually ingresses into Aries on May 10th or 11th, depending on where you are of this year. And it will actually stay in the sign of Aries until very close to Halloween. I think it's on the 28th of October of this year. After that, Jupiter will, by transit, dip back into late Pisces and stay down there for a little bit of time. And then just before Christmas, on 20th of December, we will see transit Jupiter re-enter Aries again. And this time, when transit Jupiter re-enters Aries, end of this year, transit Jupiter will actually move all the way past Aries and will exit Aries on May 16th of next year, and it will not come back to Aries ever again. Because the Jupiter retrograde that's next year actually happens fully in Taurus. So we will have this last pass of transit Jupiter in Aries from the end of this year all the way till May 16th of next year. So starting in 2022, when transit Jupiter actually initially dips into Aries, we may expect to see like a massive growth in everything that has to do with self-sufficiency, self-dependency, things to do with the self. So everything that expands your knowledge in order for you to become more autonomous or independent, like what Ian said, to stand on your own 2 feet, to be more entrepreneurial, start your own business, that is, and to launch that new product or service that you've been thinking of doing. I would say that transit Jupiter in Aries will be a very good time for a launch of sorts. And it's like a heads up as well to seek out knowledge, new knowledge, that is, because Jupiter has that expansive, like inclusive energy, new teachings and learnings for yourself, to know more about yourself. And there's also enhanced likelihood that we are going to see more violent eruptions, like what Ian also mentioned. But I personally wouldn't be surprised if that happens if we are not able to find ways to express that anger collectively, or collective frustration and impatience, for that matter. So people can be more jumpy when Jupiter is in Aries and just roaring to go, you know what I mean? And these are all the energies that we may be dealing with, as there may be like fighting for free speech also, and also the against of censorship. Because when I think about Aries, it's all about the validation of the I am principle, which is Aries, which is to be seen. So people definitely want to be, people's opinions, which is Jupiter, want to be more made known aggressively, Aries. And these might be some of the bigger things that we might see, because if I think about the ruler of Aries, which is Mars, when Jupiter actually ingresses into Aries, Jupiter's ruler, which is Mars, will be in Pisces. And then later on this year, Mars will be retrograde in Gemini, squaring Neptune 3 times. So the overall flavor of this Jupiter in Aries energy, how do I put this? I do see this coming 12 months as a kind of period for technological advancements on one hand, of new gadgets, new phones, new ways in managing our currency, for example, or our cryptocurrency. There is also like the underlying theme of CBDC, central bank digital currency, all those things with this Jupiter in Aries energy that it may help to manifest that more and more and more, and anchor that more into our reality.
So this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to give you like a quick rapid fire of what you need to do, what you need to look out for. And I also wanted to do, for this retrograde especially, obviously every retrograde, give you some, like Donnie already gave you already some pieces of advice what to do during a retrograde. And I also created a free ebook that's on my website. So it's just a little bit of a promo here, but go on to my website. There's a pop-up that you can sign up for, and you get the free ebook as well on how to beat Mercury retrograde. Because in my opinion, personal experience, and a lot of experience with other people, it's not really something to be afraid of. It's something to be welcomed actually in, and then used in this material realm. So how do we use, or how do we beat Mercury retrograde? Do more research. Research is really key. Like Donnie said here, I think it's a key point about contract signing and signing of contracts. So for me, I haven't ever been able to escape any contract signings. All freaking contract signings, however much I want to avoid, they every time they freaking fall on Mercury retrograde. So when I noticed this pattern, I just, we need to do more research. We need to go really deep into the nitty-gritty details. So please be prepared to do more research and look at the fine print and make changes. So because this is the next key point, be okay with doing things 3 times, because they come back, they come back, they come back. You need to perfect, and then they're finally ready when the retrograde ends and the shadow period or the after shadow period starts. And I want to mention quickly about the shadow period. Usually when the shadow period is coming in right now, the activities associated with Mercury and where it's at in your natal chart, they speed up, they really quicken. And now all kinds of information, everything is coming your way. You need to write it down. You can't possibly do it all at once, but if you write it down and start taking it action with it during the actual retrograde period, this is the time to do the work. This is the time to go deep. This is the time to put effort in. If you put in the effort, the results in the after shadow period, when you start to get ready, when you start to publish these things, will be much, much better. So need to be okay with doing 3 times, need to be okay with fixing things, making them better. Processing the information is key. So during the pre-shadow, information comes, new information. During the retrograde, what I've noticed here is the older information comes, and you need to put it all together in the work that you're doing. Sometimes it's contract signing, sometimes it's something else, sometimes it's a book, something, there are many forms that it can take. Now, I think one of the things really important that Donnie already said is, train of thought.
Relationships?
Not yet, almost. The new thing, if some new project comes to you during the retrograde itself, already after the shadow, this is one of the things I had to test out really intensely. So what I did, some new things came during the retrogrades. I was like, okay, so let's test this theory out and see if they stick. Really got into it, started doing them. Every time when the retrograde ends, the after shadow comes, something happens in your life, something happens in your work that kind of takes this thing that you started during the retrograde. If it's a entirely brand new thing, it kind of puts it in the back burner somewhere you don't need it, or it kind of is obsolete. So I would really urge you to take this advice, and if it comes pre-shadow, yes, okay, but retrograde, probably going to leave afterwards. So be okay with that. And now, also important, learning the things and skills you have started a while ago.